Looks like the broadcast is live. No Drew Martin bets. I got to figure out what is going on here. There he is, Drew Martin bets.
Kelly, I am so sorry. I don't know what took so long, but we are live. Welcome into the College Football Every Game on the Board podcast. Kelly, I know that's tough going solo when you didn't think. So thanks for covering me for the 12 seconds. How you feeling today?
Hey, feeling pretty good. I've got a lot of work left to do, Drew. This week is tough in college football. NFL, I have never liked so many games, at least not this year or last. And this week in college is just tough. So lots of work left to do. Excited that you swapped me and Mid-Major Matt out, as we joked last week. I said, shouldn't Mid-Major Matt be doing the end of this card? Just because that's more of his forte. Really great at the mid-majors, really great at some of the smaller conferences. Me, I'm such a Pac-12, ACC, Big 12, SEC, Big 10 type of girl. So this is more my speed.
Yeah, I got that feeling last week. I was looking at it and it was all mid-majors. I'm like, Matt Josephs as the closer. Kelly in Vegas in the 4-hole here. Power hitter and a good one to start us off. We're guys, we're going down in rotation order here on wagertalk.com. Click on the live odds tab and we're going down in order of the rotation number. It's just those little numbers next to the team name. USC and Utah first up here. Salt Lake City, Kelly, 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 Pacific, 65 being the total, -3 in the hook. That's the Utes at home. Good one here, Kelly. What do you like?
Yeah, I talked about this one on Wager Talk today, Drew. I did lay the 3.5 with Utah, and I know I'm typically the underdog better, but I'm also apparently the fade USC girl because I have been against them several weeks this season, and they've benefited from a lot of good luck, including turnovers. Last week, they did beat me, though. I had Wazoo plus the points. Lincoln Riley kicks the go-ahead field goal. No reason why but to just dagger me right in the heart on a crappy Saturday. Worst Saturday of the year so far. Hopefully going to look to turn around this weekend, starting with Utah. I know this is basically a preview of the Pac-12 championship game. Utah just got absolutely routed by UCLA this week. I'd like to think Kyle Whittingham's going to have this team a little more prepared, plus the games in Salt Lake City where Utah is excellent at home. This is a team that really thrives in that high altitude, but more importantly, USC. And fine, we don't want to talk about Clay Helton, but it doesn't matter. This team as a road underdog has been horrific dating back several seasons. And that's just because they're a public team. This looks like the public darling outside of Tennessee this week. I'm going to lay it with the Utes here.
Yeah, I'm on that side with you, Kelly. I was trying to wait for the 3. We might get it. It's a 3 and a hook.
Might.
Yeah, we'll see. I was actually just talking with Steve Merrill. Guys, if you don't know Steve Merrill, check him out on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. He does a public square divide video. He's a good person to ask about that. He was saying USC is a big public underdog, something of which a couple teams on the slate have been. So something to watch there. We might get a 3 with Utah. Next team up, staying in the Conference of Champions here, Kelly. 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific kick, 171, 172. Washington State at Oregon State. We're seeing the Beavers -3.5. Another key number here, guys. 52.5 being the total. I know the Cougars. I know because I lost on them last week too, Kelly. You jumping back on the train?
I am. And I hate to do this too because Marco gave out Oregon State as his best bet in the college football edition. And Wazoo has been great as a short underdog in the Pac-12. Covered 8 of their last 9. I have to go back to the well with this team. They have done so right by me, at least against the spread this year. Oregon State was my darling last year, but Oregon State as an underdog versus Oregon State as a favorite is a lot different. Oregon State just 2-6 as 4-point favorites or less over the past few seasons. That is against the spread. I do like this Cougars team for the most part to be able to go up and down the field against Oregon State. And I'm going to take the +3 in the hook. I do think this one does come down to 3. So get 3 in the hook now. Wazoo's headed into their bye week next week. So we'll see if they can't get us a win before doing so.
Interesting road trip here for the Arizona Wildcats, heading up to Seattle to take on Washington, the Huskies. 5:30 Eastern, 2:30 Pacific kick here. Huskies -2 touchdowns, pretty much -14 across the board, Kelly. 73 high total. What are you liking in the second of 2 Conference of Champions games?
God, I don't know what to make of this Arizona team, Drew. A lot of sharp guys were on them last week. They get absolutely throttled. This is not a team that I think is a complete unit. And I have getting to the point of this season, if you will, where maybe I don't want to back bad teams, right? And I don't want to go off to say that upset last weekend that Arizona State pulled over Washington did this Washington team in, but I'm not sure I'm ready to lay the points with them either. U of A 3-10 against the spread as a double-digit road dog was enough just to say, you know what, I'm going to completely pass here.
Okay, fair enough. We got Kelly in Vegas on Twitter. Check her out at Barstool Sportsbook, wagertalk.com. Bet on it as well, the Wager Talk YouTube channel. We got San Jose State and Fresno State up next here, Kelly. I believe it's the last game on the board, 10:45 Eastern, degenerate special time slot, -8.5. That's San Jose State as the road favorite, 47 being the total. You like it anything in Fresno, California, late night?
Drew, do you know how bad I want to bet Fresno State here? I really, really do. But San Jose State has been rocking and rolling here. And frankly, Fresno State has kind of its own set of issues. I did back them versus USC a few weeks ago. They looked good in the first half, obviously pulled away. The Trojans pulled away there at the end. I would have loved to back them. But I talked to Dave Koken, and he said, right now, they're just not in a good place. Not only that, they're one of the only teams in the FBS that is yet to cover a game. Is this the bottom falling out? Maybe, but I'm not willing to lay down on those tracks just yet and back the Bulldogs. I think this is a lay it or don't play it type situation.
Sure. Yeah. The catch the falling knife. That's always a tough profile to bet on.
Yeah. Listen, there's certain teams that I'm willing to step in front of that freight train for, but I don't think the Bulldogs are well-rounded enough for me to do so.
Do you feel the same way in the NFL and college football with that, or are there differences?
No, the NFL, give me the gross teams all day because the lack of variance, right? But top to bottom in college football, there is so much variance. And in the NFL, you rarely see teams quitting. And I'm not going to say that there haven't been teams that have quit, but again, your professional careers, you're playing for bonuses, you're playing for maybe a trade, whatever that may be. In college football, especially with some of these teams in smaller conferences, you may see a breakout wide receiver looking to transfer or something like that. But yeah. Fresno State's kind of in a world of hurt right now, and that is just a team where I think the math checks out. I made the game 6.5. That's giving me 2 points of value, but I think the bookmakers are basically gifting it, just trying to get any money on Fresno State here because, as I had mentioned, they just haven't covered a game. So something has to give eventually. But when I'm looking for dogs, Drew, I'm looking for those outright dogs, and they're just not a team that I think can win this game, unfortunately.
Great analysis, Kelly. We got Texas State and Troy up next, 3:30 Eastern here. 47 being the total. Troy Trojans -16 here in the Sun Belt.
Laying 16 in the Sun Belt. What a world we're in here. Drew, Texas State, correct me if I'm wrong, didn't they just win outright?
The Bobcats?
Didn't they just beat somebody outright? I could have swore. Yes, they just beat App State outright, right? 19.5 point under. Yes, I actually, how I remember that, and I just looked it up, is because that's who won the Viva promotion on the Hustle, was the two guys that gave out Texas State. And this is, as we've talked about before, and we just talked about with mid-major math, this is not a conference that I really follow, but you do kind of have to wonder, does Texas State kind of have a little bit of a hangover there? Maybe, maybe not. Troy, 5-1 against the spread this year. They've been having a nice season, 4-2 on the season. They could be just a few too many points here. They have covered 5 of their last 6, as I mentioned. I'm going to stay away from this one, but keep that in mind with Texas State. Maybe they're a little too happy after beating App State last week.
Yeah, App State in San Marcos. Wow. Yeah, good call there, Kelly. 36-24. Next game up, heading to Oxford, Mississippi. We get the Auburn Tigers, Ole Miss Rebels kicking us off on Saturday, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific kick here. Ole Miss -15 at home, 55 being the total. War Eagle versus Hotty Toddy, Kelly in Vegas.
Do you think that the bookmakers know that Lane actually cares about covering the spread? And I wouldn't have my complaints if I wasn't on the other side with Adam Trigger. So I took Vandy with Trig. Yeah, that was, listen, there was a stat from our good friend Mark Lawrence about fading 5-0 teams. And Ole Miss was one of them. He said, hey, let's look at Vandy here. And, well, Lane Kiffin said, I know the spread. I'm going to kick a field goal. So he did. And that was where it got really tough. Now that we know that this is coming into the locker room, now that sports betting is so much more mainstream, and we know that coaches follow the spread. I know that coaches follow the spread because Lane Kiffin's followed me on Twitter for about 5 years. So he definitely knows what the spread is. Why else would he follow me? That being said, I don't want to step in front of Ole Miss right now. Frankly, this is not a team that I'm looking to fade. Your Auburn Tigers, speaking of the spread, have been atrocious. They've covered one game, Drew Martin bets. Do you think I want to tackle this team? Do I think this is too many points? Absolutely. I do like Jackson Dart. I do think he's a serviceable quarterback. Do I want to lay it with Ole Miss? No. This is just a SEC pass for me here.
Yeah, Lane, if you're listening, if you're watching the video here,
we're on to you, Lane.
Yeah. No,
we appreciate you at times, but not others.
Yeah, really. Just take it easy on Auburn this weekend. But Kelly, I think you're onto something. I mean, whether it be, the boosters and wanting to keep them happy. I mean, all these guys have great jobs. They don't want to lose their jobs, getting paid a bunch of money. It makes sense.
Hey, if they're going to, wouldn't you want to be a fired coach? Look at Matt Rule. Just gets paid $800,000 a month to sit at home for the next few years. Do you really want to go take the Nebraska job and have to deal with all that kind of drama? I don't know. They do make good money. You do want to keep your boosters happy. And obviously most college football coaches understand the current climate that we're in, because I'm pretty sure I was told at one point in time in the K-State locker room, there was a picture of me and said, do not follow this girl on Twitter. So
real.
at least that was the rumor that I heard. I've never seen it with my own eyes, but I did think it was pretty funny that please do not interact with this person on Twitter. She's only being nice to you for inside information.
That's hilarious. Oh, wow. Good stuff here with Kelly in Vegas, guys. We got UL Monroe, South Alabama up next, heading back to the Sun Belt here, Kelly, 7:00 Eastern. We're seeing the Jaguars -17 in Mobile, Alabama, 51.5 being the total. Anything here, ULM, USA?
South Alabama. Interesting. Listen, this is a team that I think when people go to the window, they're going to say, oh, they almost beat UCLA, and look at what UCLA is doing now. They are 8-0 against the spread at home versus sub 500 opponents. Probably the only way I could look here would be South Alabama.
Okay, let's get back in the comfort zone. Kansas and Oklahoma in the Big 12, 12 noon Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific, 62.5 being the total, -9. That's the Sooners at home.
Yeah, Drew, full disclosure, I want no part of this game. No Jalen Daniels. And while we saw Bean have a decent completion play right on his first play when he found out he was going to the game, and then he threw 4 touchdown passes, I'm not sure that there's a huge drop-off to the line. When it was 7, I considered Oklahoma. I blinked my eyes. The Wager Talk odds screen popped up a 9. So obviously somebody thinks that there's a little bit more of a drop-off between Daniels and Bean, even though I don't think so. Big question mark, Dylan Gabriel. Last week I had Oklahoma in my parlay. Not sure it would have mattered, but I was told Dylan Gabriel would suit up. He would be on the sidelines, and he was, except he didn't see a second of the game. So while my insight was not wrong, maybe it would have been nice to know that he wasn't going to play. That being said, if he doesn't play, why would you want to lay it with Oklahoma? If he does play, is he fully healthy? If he does play, is the Oklahoma defense going to show up? This is a KU team that has superseded everybody's expectation. I had them over 2.5 wins. If you said, I will give you 5-1 on over 6 wins, I would have said you're crazy. But this team is going to go bowling this year, or at least it sure looks like it. But I don't want to step in front of an Oklahoma team that looks like they flat out quit already on Brent Venables. Surely he's got in the middle of their asses after getting shut out by Texas, 49-0. That was an embarrassment. That was the worst college football pick I've had in like 3 or 4 years. It was just gross. I don't know what to make of the problems in Norman, but I can tell you this right now. I think the Jayhawks will give them a fight. It just depends on which defense wants to show up and shut the other one down.
Kelly, a fan question for you. Does it worry you that like Kansas is on the upswing?
No, I think it's so much better for the conference, Drew. You
Okay.
have Oklahoma and Texas leaving for the SEC. Watching them get their asses kicked is magical. I love
Yeah.
it. I've enjoyed it so much. See you guys later. Enjoy being able to see all the horns downs, because you're going to be allowed to do that in the SEC, unlike the Big 12. I think the Jayhawks being good at football is good for the conference.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I don't want to see, I want it to be a competitive conference. We know we have 4 other teams coming in. Looks like Houston may be the new bottom feeder, but it remains to be seen. I'm kind of curious, but no, I think it's very good. And KU fans very excited. They finally are selling tickets to the game, not just giving them out for free on campus. It's good for the state of Kansas. It's good for all of the other teams in the conference. The more teams you have go to a bowl game, the better. And I think it makes it for a more competitive season. I mean, yes, do I love when K-State was favored by 34.5 over KU? Was that just fun to beat them 51-3? Yes, of course. Of course, those were great. But to see there be an actual rivalry again, I think is going to be really exciting.
Love it. Yeah, rising tide lifting all boats in the Big 12. I'm in the minority. I've told people this, they think I'm crazy. I think the Big 12 is going to be better in the future
I think
in
that they
what they
will
have.
be too, Drew. We talked a
Yeah,
lot about them last night on the hustle. The Big 12 is on the up and up, and hopefully it stays intact a little bit longer than the last time.
absolutely. I like it, Kelly in Vegas. Good stuff. Kansas, Oklahoma, 2 left here. Speaking of the Big 12, both in the Big 12, 3:30 Eastern, 185, 186. Oklahoma State and TCU, arguably the game of the weekend. High total here, Kelly, 68.5. We're seeing -4 to -3.5. That's TCU at home.
Yeah, Drew, this looks like a complete and utter trap game. I am going, I love Oklahoma State in this one. I think they're the best team in the Big 12. TCU has looked great. They've been scoring in bunches, but they just got in a dogfight with the Jayhawks themselves, right? Just to get that go-ahead cover. I guess that's if you had 6.5. If you had 7, you pushed. If you laid 7.5, I think you were you got to be better at this game. Max Duggan has looked really good lately, but I do think the coaching edge here has to go to Gundy over Sonny Dykes. And that's just because I do think Gundy has a lot more guts. We'll see dual threat quarterback and Spencer Sanders. I think that they're the play here. It kind of reminds me of last week where UNC was going into Miami. And I said, this line is backwards. Am I crazy? But yeah, I mean, no one's going to want to lay points with Oklahoma on the road, but you want to give me over field goal in a game that looks like a knockout, drag out fight. I actually lean the under here. Kind of crazy to think because the over has cashed, I believe, 4 or 5 straight. But I think that we're going to see a lot more defense from both of these teams. I could see this being like a 31-30 final. Either team wins. Like something crazy is going to happen here. Onside kick, defensive touchdown. It just looks like a really awesome Big 12 game and maybe a preview of what we see in December.
Kelly Stewart, we got one game left here. Follow her on Twitter at Kelly in Vegas, like you likely already are. Please smash that like button. Check her out. Bet on it on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Also, Money Shots, Barstool Sportsbook. A lot of good stuff going on here, guys. Last game, Big 12. Iowa State and Texas. Longhorns -16 at home, 48.5 being the total. This one kicking us off on Saturday, Kelly.
God, Drew, I would love to take Iowa State in my parlay. I am so close. So full disclosure, I didn't take Illinois because DeVito sounds like he's going to be out. Levis came back for Kentucky, got announced a little earlier than I would have liked. So that one's now down to 3.5. So I'm looking in the touchdown range and I'm going, I don't want to touch Va Tech. That's disgusting. Sparty, I don't know if I can do it. So I started looking in the double digit range that in most of the games I'd passed on. The only double digit dog that I played this week was Iowa State plus 16. And that is because this is a huge Texas spot, or excuse me, Oklahoma sandwich for the Texas Longhorns. Just beat down the worst defense in the Big 12. Now they're playing the best defense in the Big 12. And the next week they play Oklahoma State. Texas is by all means back, right? They've covered almost every single game this year, 5-1 against the spread. The Cyclones somehow got lucky to cover that game against my Wildcats. They punched out a ball with Malik Knowles during a touchdown. And then some announcer, who I don't even know his name because it's on some terrible ESPN 12 channel, says, oh, this kid hasn't missed a field goal all season. shank it left on 26-yard chip shot. So that was not fun. Luckily, I had no money wagered, and that helped my over 6.5 win total. And our good friend TT Bats got to cash his Iowa State plus 1.5 bet. But I knew when I saw the line, I go, this game's going to land 1. This is such a stupid game. K-State's going into a bye week. Please be advised here. But that Iowa State defense did what they've been doing all season long. And that's why I like them here. I know that Matt Campbell has gotten a lot of grief lately, right? But as a double-digit underdog in the Big 12, he is 10-1 against the spread. And I have no choice but to take him here. I'm not sure I'm going to get there on the money line. But, man, the Horns have been terrible, especially at home as big favorites. We've seen this rodeo way too many times. If I don't sprinkle on the money line, Iowa State wins outright. If I do, well, you already know what's going to happen.
Kelly, I love the profile. As you're talking about this one kind of wrote, I didn't notice it. You're right. They've dropped 3 straight, but they've all been competitive against good teams. I mean,
Iowa State's still a pretty solid football team, Drew. And while offensively they haven't had a lot of firepower this year, their defense has really shut down. Look at Deuce Vaughn, who's one of the best running backs in the Big 12. I mean, he's out there blocking big boy O-linemen, just trying to get Adrian Martinez some separation last game. It was kind of wild. That front 7 of Iowa State, it reminded me a lot of the Tulane game. I finally got to go back and watch that Tulane game, and I thought that there was a lot of mistakes made by Kansas State, but it really was a solid defense. And that's exactly what Iowa State brings to the table. Any given Saturday, I think Iowa State could spring the upset, and I think I might have just talked myself into putting them in my parlay.
Yeah, I don't know. I might jump on this as well. And is it something where you bet the 16.5 and bet the money line?
Yeah, I think I have to do that. I think I have to just, even if it's just a small sprinkle, Iowa State is, as I said, Texas is going to look, and Marco D'Angelo uses this term a lot, fat and sassy. And I make fun of him all the time and always tell him he's the fat and sassy one. But it's true. When you're a team like Texas and you're full of 5-star recruits and 5-star players, and you've been told your whole life how great you are, and you just go out in the Red River rivalry and just pound an Oklahoma team that all but quit last weekend, you got to feel pretty good about yourself. And then you get your goggles out and you go, oh, we're playing Oklahoma State next week. Do you really care about Iowa State? And this is Iowa State. We have seen this team for the last 25 years play spoiler on so many different occasions. That's why I said I hate going to Ames, because I have bad childhood memories of going there and an 8-9 win K-State team loses to a 3-4 win Iowa State team, and that was their bowl game. We've seen it before with Texas. We've seen it with Oklahoma State. We've seen it with Baylor.
Oh, yeah.
This is a scrappy Iowa State team. The problem is they're going to have to show something offensively. And by all means, I hope that Matt Campbell has this team ready.
And it's it's sleepy atmosphere. Well, it won't be sleepy, but it's early, early kick at home. That sometimes takes away that home field advantage, at least early in the game. Great breakdown, Kelly. Good one to end it on here. Kelly Stewart, guys, at Kelly in Vegas on Twitter, Barstool Sportsbook, wagertalk.com. Bet on it on the Wager Talk YouTube channel. Money shots as well with Barstool Sportsbook. Kelly bringing the heat each and every week right here on the Every Game on the Board podcast. Kelly, did I forget anything out there? Do you have a most confident play out of the ones that you talked about?
My best bet this week is going to be Penn State. Penn State's been an incredible underdog, particularly on the road. James Franklin, while he infuriates me, I figured out why he infuriates me. He reminds me of Bill Snyder at times.
Really?
He's very conservative. Yes. The thing is when you have teams that you're looking for outright underdog winners, you want somebody that's going to not kick the field goal, score the touchdown. And that's not always James Franklin, especially as a favorite. But in the underdog role, 11-4 against the spread in his last 15. And I cannot get past the fact that Michigan hasn't played anybody. And until then, I know that you can only play the schedule that you've been gifted, and I'm not going to punish them for it. But until that I see that this Michigan team is going to be able to throw the ball downfield, you can't lay 7 points with this team, because I do think Penn State's going to be able to stop the running game and make them one-dimensional.
Great analysis as always, Kelly. Anything before we shut this down?
No, we're good, Drew. I'll see you next Thursday.
All right, guys, thanks for tuning in. Smash that like button. And we'll talk with Kelly next week. We'll be right back with Mid-Major Matt in the last section of the Every Game on the Board. Thanks for tuning in.